3 Sinister Wilderness Encounters, terrifying true tales of haunting experiences revealed. The wind howled like a banshee that night in Cedar Hollow, rattling windows and sending a chill down the spine of anyone who dared to wander too close to the woods. Shadows danced beneath the trees, whispering secrets, and some say they could even hear their names being called. Everyone in town had a story. Everyone knew someone who went missing in the mountains nearby, never to return. Ellen Johnson, a single mother of 2, felt the weight of those tales but never truly believed them. Until one fateful night, as she left the diner after another grueling shift, the darkness enveloped her. Each step scraped against the gravel, sending echoes through the stillness, as if the shadows were alive and bending toward her. A prickle crawled up her spine, and she glanced back, heart racing, hoping to see nothing there. But the trees inched closer, their branches twisting and curling like fingers reaching out in a desperate grasp for her. "Stop it," she muttered as she hurried toward home. Her breath came in rapid bursts, the night air felt charged, almost electric. The whispers began as soft murmurs, tickling her ear. "Ellen, Ellen," they wove through the gusty winds like fingers threading through hair, each gust making her skin crawl. Surely, it was just the exhaustion. Rise before the sun, work late into the night, fatigue had a way of playing tricks with the mind. But a small voice nagged at her, reminding her of the tales that hung like a thick fog over Cedar Hollow, disappearances wrapped in dark magic. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. When she finally stepped into her cluttered kitchen, the comfort of familiarity settled upon her like a warm blanket until she remembered the tales. She sat heavy with dread, her children sleeping soundly just down the hall. Underneath the kitchen lights, she surveyed the chaos, dishes piled high, remnants of dinners past littered across the countertop. The calm was deceiving, wrapping her in a lullaby that cradled her into a false sense of security. It was then she decided to call Derek, her neighbor, who had a way of making her feel better with his unwavering charm. But as she voiced her fears, she saw something flicker in his eyes. Was it fear or annoyance? He dismissed her with a wave, but the doubt crept in. Maybe Cedar Hollow wasn't as safe as he insisted. Days turned to nights in a blur of anxiety, washing over her like the relentless tide. Ellen dove into the history of her town, finding strange headlines and reports of those who had vanished without a trace. Her breath caught in her throat. Old newspaper clippings told the chilling tales of malign spirits haunting the woods. Panic lodged itself in her chest, clenching tight, her instincts screaming something wasn't right. As she read further, the whispers returned, more insistent, more demanding. The trees pressed closer, shrouded by shadow. Was Derek protecting them, or was he hiding something darker? Cold sweat broke out on her forehead, her heartbeat drumming a frantic tattoo. With fear fueling her determination, she knew she had to confront the truth. At the edge of the forest, shadows swirled like wraiths, ready to devour her. Her mind raced, eyes darting, awaiting the worst. And when she saw Derek's charming face contort into something almost feral, a sickening revelation washed over her. This was just the beginning. The true horror lay waiting, poised to reveal itself, and the chilling knowledge that she was not as safe as she once believed loomed ominously in the shadows. The question now was, how far would she go to protect her family, even if it meant confronting the very darkness that concealed itself in the heart of Cedar Hollow? Ellen stood frozen, breath caught in her throat as she faced Derek, or what was left of him. The man she once found comfort in, his smile now twisted into a grotesque sneer. His eyes glinted with an unsettling depth, void of warmth, and as she took a step back, the shadows seemed to whisper her name again, urging her to flee. "Ellen," he rasped, his voice low and gravelly, like stones scraping together. "You shouldn't have come here." The words wrapped around her like a vice, squeezing the air from her lungs. She could feel the thrum of panic rising, a frantic drumbeat demanding her to get away, but her feet were glued to the earth. What had happened to him? What darkness had seeped into Derek's soul? "Get back!" she shouted, brandishing a kitchen knife she had instinctively snatched from the countertop on her way out. The blade glimmered under the pale moonlight, but it felt like a ludicrous defense against the lurking terror. "Oh, Ellen. You don't understand." He stepped closer. "They need you. They've been calling for you." Each step he took left a chill in the air. Ellen's heart thundered louder, drowning out the rustle of leaves. She could almost hear the undercurrent of whispers tightening around her, urging her to listen, to succumb. It dawned upon her that the forest, her entire world, was embroiled in a dark ritual that was claiming lives one by one. Was Derek a pawn or a willing participant in this nightmare? "Stop!" she cried, the knife shaking in her grip now. "What do they want with me?" His laugh echoed, chilling and dark. "What they want is delicious. The forest likes you, Ellen. More than anyone else." Her stomach dropped. It wasn't just the town's whispers she had been hearing. She was enmeshed in a sinister web where human and spectral merged, where the lines of friend and foe became blurred. Ellen turned and bolted, racing back toward the house, her chest heaving. Adrenaline surged through her veins, pushing her legs harder and faster, each step screaming desperation. She dared to glance back, half expecting to see Derek at her heels. But the shadows had swarmed, swallowing him whole and blotting out the light of the moon. All she could see were the trees bending unnaturally as if beckoning her to return. Panting, she reached her front door, fingers trembling as she fumbled for the keys. Goosebumps prickled her skin, prophetic dread overtaking the familiar warmth of home. She slammed the door shut behind her, and leaned against it, heart racing. The safety of her home was an illusion. Even though the walls enclosed her, they felt flimsy against the dark forces at play. "Mom!" A tiny voice called from down the hallway. It was her daughter, Lily. The innocence lanced through Ellen's heart like a dagger. She couldn't let this darkness touch her children. It was imperative to protect them, no matter the price. "I'm coming, sweetheart," she shouted, forcing her limbs to move. But as she stepped into the hallway, a freezing gust filled the air, followed by a soft, eerie laughter that drifted from the shadows. The lights flickered, and Ellen's breath caught. She knew the whispers were still waiting right outside. She hurried to Lily's room, dread pooling in her stomach. As she opened the door, the sight that greeted her was unreal. There stood her daughter with wide, empty eyes, staring through her like she wasn't there. And from her lips, a voice emerged. Not Lily's. A deeper, sinister voice sang with the soft cadence of the woods. "Come play with us, Ellen, we've been waiting." Ellen's heart plummeted. She felt the room close in. Her daughter was a vessel now, a conduit for something far worse than she could ever comprehend, and then, just like that, a horrifying clarity dawned upon her. The true danger wasn't simply the enchanted forest or its shadows lurking outside. It was much closer, and it was already inside. Desperation clawed at her mind. Would she fight against her own flesh and blood? Could she save her child from the insatiable call of the woods? As she stepped closer, the whispers erupted, louder, twisting with a maddening intensity, promising to unveil the unseen horrors. "Will you surrender to us, Ellen? Will you embrace the darkness?" What choice remained? And just how far was she willing to go to save Lily from the very darkness that now threatened to consume them both? Ellen's heart raced as she stood frozen, the echoes of that sinister voice wrapping around her like chains. "Please," she whispered, almost pleading with the shadows. The very air in the room felt charged, as if alive, pressing against her chest. Lily remained still, eyes glazed over, the innocent light within them extinguished. "Come play with us," the voice drifted through the air, a seductive whisper that sent shivers down Ellen's spine. "No. You're not my daughter," Ellen shouted, stepping back, panic roaring in her head. The knife clutched in her hand felt heavier than ever, a weight that seemed futile against the darkness that lived inside her home. The laughter swelled again, echoing off the walls. It was a chorus of glee, a sickly sweet melody that promised to tear apart the fabric of her reality. She remembered the tales from the town about the forest, a cursed place where children went missing and never returned. Had it come for her, for Lily? Get out of her! Ellen screamed, her voice cracking. Leave my child alone. Tears burned in her eyes as she battled against the sorrow threatening to engulf her. Just then, a sudden chill filtered through the room, extinguishing the feeble light. Shadows thickened, folding into the corners, forming grotesque shapes that crept closer, as if obeying a dark command. The air around her crackled with insidious energy, and the walls of her home seemed to close in, the house itself groaning under the weight of the unseen horror. Lily's lips curved into a smile that was not hers, stretching in a way that made Ellen's stomach churn. We need you. They are waiting. Come play. The words slithered into her mind, weaving a fabric of dread. Ellen's instinct screamed to fight, to pull her daughter back from whatever dark tether was binding her. But as she looked into Lily's eyes, she saw darkness, not the warmth of her child but the vast emptiness of the void. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently. From the corners of the room, eerie shapes twisted and morphed, whispering her name, calling her into their fold. Join us, Ellen. Give in. A surge of anger washed over Ellen. No. She lunged forward, knife raised, driven by the fierce love for her daughter. You want to take her. But before the blade could find its mark, the shadows erupted like a tidal wave, striking her down. Ellen stumbled, gasping as the overwhelming force of darkness crashed over her. Mom. The voice became a child's again, trembling. Lily reached out, but her hand wavered, half hidden beneath the shroud of shadow. Ellen's heart splintered. Fight, Lily. You're stronger than this. She felt the grip of despair tightening around her, but she refused to yield. She focused on her daughter's smile, the laughter they shared, everything that made Lily unique. You need to come back to me. As if responding to her plea, the shadows momentarily parted, and Ellen caught a glimpse of clarity in Lily's eyes. Help me. Hope ignited within Ellen, but it was fleeting. The malignant laughter rose again, drowning out her resolve. The walls compressed, and she felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Run! She shouted, desperate to break free. Get out of this house. But even as the words left her mouth, she realized she wasn't the one in control anymore. The darkness laughed as it surged forth, the shadows forming a dark tide. Ellen fought against the grasping tendrils, raising her knife again. Stay back. I will save you. The resolve was firm, but each word was laced with fear. With a flash, the knife slipped from her fingers and fell to the floor with a dull thud. The shadows quickly encroached, choking the air with an overwhelming stench of decay. Ellen clawed at the walls, her voice rising in pitch. Lily. Fight it. But the shadows wrapped around her, pulling her deeper into the wretched embrace of night, and as they dragged her toward the abyss, she could only whisper one word. No. There, on the edge of oblivion, something familiar stirred in the gloom. The whispers coalesced into a singular voice, a chilling harmony that beckoned with a new proposal. Join us. And perhaps we will let her go. The offer hung in the air, heavier than the stifling darkness, compelling Ellen with every nerve in her body. Could she truly bargain with such forces? Was there a price too great for her daughter's safety? As the shadows closed in, pausing just inches from consuming her completely, she felt the vertiginous weight of choice press down on her. What price would she be willing to pay to save the daughter she adored? In that moment of dreadful hesitation, a shard of light flickered in the darkness, and the whispers grew louder, swirling with a promise that would change everything. What if the darkness wasn't the greatest threat? What if it held the answers she sought? And then, a hauntingly familiar figure stepped from the void, its face shadowed but unmistakable. It hovered just out of reach, embodying both light and darkness, both savior and damnation. Derek. Ellen, he said softly, his voice wrapped in an eerie calm. You've arrived just in time. There's so much you do not yet know. With that, the shadows shifted, and Ellen could only stare, heart pounding, as the darkness awaited her response. Would she embrace it? Or fight against it for all she loved? Caught between two worlds, Ellen faced the inevitable choice that would seal her fate and perhaps Lily's as well. Ellen's breath quickened, a mixture of uncertainty and fear coursing through her as Derek's figure loomed closer. His presence was comforting yet unsettling, a riddle wrapped in shadows. What do you mean? She gasped, eyes darting to Lily, whose form seemed to flicker like a dying light. Where have you been? Derek's voice cut through the chaos like a knife. I was here all along, Ellen. Just watching. Waiting. He stepped forward, his features still obscured by dark mist. You have to understand. This isn't just about you or Lily. It's bigger. Bigger? Ellen spat, anger surging from the depths of her despair. You think this is a game? My daughter is in danger. A jagged grin split Derek's face, or at least what she could see of it. That's exactly it. You think you're fighting for her, but you don't even know what she is. What the forest wants. What the shadows are. What are you saying? Ellen's legs trembled beneath her. The room felt like it was warping, shadows shivering and writhing like live things. Every nerve in her body screamed danger. Listen. This darkness binds us, but it also holds power. Derek extended his hand, beckoning her to come closer. The shadows seemed to withdraw slightly, drawn momentarily by his presence. It's a trade, Ellen. Every choice comes with a price. But it can save her. Ellen hesitated, glancing at Lily, who stood silent, her small body a mere silhouette against creeping shadows. She felt the tug of a mother's love, fierce and unyielding, but fear edged its way in. What are you asking of me? To accept what is. To embrace this power. Derek's voice shimmered with promise, the kind that promised salvation but carried a heavy cost. You must let go of your fear. Surrender to the darkness to reclaim your daughter. A wave of nausea rolled over Ellen. Could she truly consider this? The darkness had tainted everything it touched, its hunger insatiable. But could it also save her? And if I refuse? The shadows behind him erupted with laughter, malicious and mocking, stretching out their long fingers. Then she remains with us to play. Forever. Mom help me. Lily's voice quivered, echoing through the twisted space as if begging through a veil of oblivion. Ellen's heart broke, torn between dread and the slightest glimmer of hope. What do I have to do? She whispered, her voice thick, the shadows pushing in around her like a noose. Derek's face twisted into a fanged smile, and Ellen saw a clearing in the darkness beyond him. A ritual. It's a pact to grant you strength. To gain what you need to pull her back. But it requires a sacrifice. She felt a chill race down her spine. What kind of sacrifice? Something precious, he replied, his tone turning grim. A piece of your essence. Something that ties you to the light. Only then can you plunge into this darkness and emerge victorious. The laughter grew louder, ringing in her ears. Make your choice, Ellen. She will either be ours, or you'll brave the shadows for her. Ellen stared at Lily. The girl shivered, her once cheerful spirit dimmed. Would she really have to give up a part of herself to save her? The weight of such a choice stifled her breath. As seconds turned to an eternity, she felt the air change. The shadows pressed closer, a pulse of dark energy vibrating in her bones. Something crystalline began forming in her heart, a recognition. To embrace the darkness could lead not only to saving Lily but salving her own wounds, the ones left by grief and loss. Will you? Derek urged, shadows swirling about him, teasing her with their promises. The forest beckoned, expanding beyond this moment, lifting a veil of secrets ready to spill into the light. Ellen's fingers tightened, nails digging into her palms as she wrestled with the enormity of her decision. There was no turning back now, the essence of their bond flickered on the brink of collapse. She felt the first spark of darkness embed itself in her heart, pulling at her resolve, but what could she lose? What was essence if it meant saving her daughter? What was she willing to sacrifice? Feeling the shadows tighten around her, she whispered, "What do I need to do? Tell me." Then, a sudden scream pierced the air as Lily's form twisted, the shadows revealing what they had claimed. Ellen's heart dropped, fear gripping her. Would the price be worth paying? Would she regret what came next? And as the laughter began anew, loud, cruel, full of darkness, Ellen realized she was standing at the edge of an unthinkable abyss. Without a choice, she had to leap or lose everything she loved. What lay on the other side? Would she truly find her daughter, or was this plunge into darkness just the beginning of a nightmare from which they couldn't awaken? Ellen's heart raced as Derek's grin widened, revealing teeth that seemed to glimmer with a sinister reflection of the shadows. The air around her thickened, pulsing like a living thing wrapped tight in dread. Lily's cries faded into an echo, allowing darkness to weave its deceitful lullaby through her veins. "Do it, Ellen," Derek urged, his voice smooth like silk, caressing her determination and threading it through the tightening noose of shadows. "Make your choice before the forest claims her for good." With each passing second, the world around her dimmed, obscuring the warmth of her memories. The glimmer of hope flickered in the face of terror, lighting a desperate fire within her. Was sacrifice the only path? Was power truly buried within the depths of darkness? "Tell me," she screamed, almost losing her voice, the sound bouncing off walls of shadow and laughter, echoing back tauntingly. "What must I give?" Derek leaned closer, the mist swirling around him like hunting hounds poised to strike. "You need to surrender your fear, Ellen. Embrace this power fully. To step into the shadows, you must release something important, a memory, a truth, a fragment of your soul. Your connection to the light must be severed. Only then can you reach her." Ellen's thoughts spiraled, chaos reigning inside her mind. What did she have that was precious enough to relinquish? In an instant, she saw it, her deepest sorrow, the memory of her husband, long gone but forever engraved in her heart. The laughter, mocking, relentless, seemed to press in around her. "Is this how it must be?" she whispered, choking on grief. "Surrendering a piece of myself?" "Yes." He howled, his eyes aflame with an unnatural hunger. "You must. Forget the light that binds you. It only holds you back. Embrace the darkness, and the power is yours." Lily's silhouette flickered, caught between realms, her small hands reaching out through the veil. "Mom, don't leave me." Her voice cracked like shattered glass, sending jagged shards into Ellen's heart. Ellen felt the shadows shift, sensing the echo of her hesitation. Every fiber of her being screamed to protect her daughter, but what was left of her if she lost herself in the process? This madness had to end, but what price would victory demand? "I'll do it," she shouted, the words breaking from her lips like a death knell amidst the mocking laughter. As she reached toward Derek, she could feel the cold tendrils of darkness creeping closer, eager as predators feasting on her resolve. "I'm ready." Derek's grin stretched wider, transforming into something monstrous. "Then let it begin." A sudden rush of shadows enveloped her. Ellen closed her eyes, fear coiling tightly around her heart, trying to breathe as darkness seeped into her soul. She felt it, clawing at her essence, fragmenting pieces of her heart like snapping twigs. The darkness became an unbearable pressure, pressing cold fingers into the depths of her mind, fraying memories of laughter, love, and warmth. It was devouring her, yet she held on, picturing Lily, the girl who needed her, the light she had to reclaim. Images flashed before her, Lily's first steps, the soft curls of her hair, the way she used to laugh, and then the night that had stolen everything from them. Ellen staggered, clutching her head, a scream caught in her throat, and for a moment the shadows pulled back as if whispering doubts. This wasn't what she had intended. She could feel the loss settling into her bones, sharp and bitter. Just as quickly as the fleeting moment of clarity arrived, the laughter returned, louder and more chaotic, suffocating her under its weight. "Give in." Derek's voice roared, drowning out her thoughts. "Let go. Embrace the darkness if you want to save her." Fingers of shadow curled around her, and a darkness deeper than night promised salvation or her destruction. And in that obscured moment, she knew it would all hinge on a single, catastrophic step, trusting this foe wrapped in shadows. Ellen faced the abyss, and as the laughter crescendoed into a deafening roar, she whispered, "If it means saving my daughter, then let it be so." As the world fell away, she surrendered headlong into the dark. What lay on the other side? Would she emerge wielding the power to save Lily, or would shadows claim her voice forever? In the impenetrable blackness, the only certainty was that everything had changed. Ellen felt herself falling, or maybe it was being drawn into a vast, yawning chasm of darkness. Time stretched, an elastic moment where past and present collided. Memories swirled in her mind like smoke, dimming the colors of her life until only shadows remained, an echo of laughter, the warmth of a hug now frozen in a shroud of cold despair. As she descended, a voice like Derek's haunted her thoughts, coaxing, teasing, "You want to save her, don't you?" Images morphed, twisted beneath the weight of despair. She glimpsed Lily, wide-eyed and frightened, her typically vibrant spirit dimming against the backdrop of an eerie twilight. Was this what the shadows sought? To leech joy from the world, turning innocence into fear? The air thickened with each heartbeat, a sticky miasma that choked her resolve. Ellen clawed through it, gasping as the shadows tightened their hold, pulling her deeper still. Panic gnawed at her, the realization that something was taken, yet she was helpless to stop it. Suddenly, she was surrounded by figures, shapes that flickered like candle flames, glimpses of lost souls wandering, forever searching. They beckoned with elongated fingers, faces contorted in despair mixed with a hint of mockery. "Join us," they whispered, their voices a cacophony of sorrow. "The darkness is freeing. Here, we exist without fear." Ellen shook her head, fighting against their allure. "No. This isn't freedom. This is a curse." Derek's laughter sliced through, sharp yet distant. "You were warned." He appeared before her, an embodiment of shadow and flame. "You chose to embrace the dark, now it's time to reap the consequences." Panic surged, threatening to consume her. Each step she took felt muddied, her thoughts a mess as confusion gripped her from every angle. "What are you?" she demanded, her voice trembling in defiance. "What do you want from me?" "Your essence is potent," he hissed, eyes glinting with a predatory hunger. "You can give yourself over to us. And we will protect your daughter, or you can struggle. But salvation comes with a price, Ellen." The ground beneath her shifted, the shadows swirling in a vivid display of memories like leaves caught in a whirlwind, forming a landscape of her past. She saw her husband one last time, standing at the edge of a forest, his reassuring smile transformed into a grim warning. "Ellen, don't let them take your light." His voice rang clear, a haunting melody that cut through the haze. She remembered the warmth of their love, the safety it brought, and the birth of hope embedded in every corner of her heart. "No!" she cried, pushing against the torrent of darkness. "I won't allow you to take what is mine." As if responding to her defiance, the shadows darkened, coiling tightly around her limbs like a serpent, squeezing until she could barely breathe. Ellen felt the edges of her soul fraying, the remnants of her husband's love slipping away, threatening to extinguish the flickering fire that remained within her. Derek chuckled, sinister and satisfied. "Resist all you want. The night always claims its own." With sheer will, she yanked her eyes open wide, forcing herself to see through the darkness wrapped around her. "Lily!" she shouted, her voice echoing through the void. "I will fight for you." But as her words hung in the air, doubt crept in. The shadow-muffled cries of her daughter whispered through the dark, a chilling reminder of her vulnerability. "Does she even know what you're becoming?" Derek taunted, laughter rolling like thunder. "What will she think when she sees you remake yourself in this image?" Breathing heavily, Ellen steeled herself, resolute. She couldn't allow fear to suffocate her any longer. And just like that, she made a choice that would ripple through the darkness and beyond. "I want to let fear forge my destiny," she shouted, brandishing the last remnants of her love like a shield. In the depths of despair, she felt warmth spark. Something fierce stabbed through the shadows, igniting purpose. This wasn't the end, but as she took her stand, a rush of cold enveloped her, an overwhelming rush of memories slipping away, leaving an aching void. What had she lost already? Would she pay too high a price for her defiance? In that heart-stopping moment, with every breath a battle, Ellen felt a tremor in the air. Something was waking in the depths of the dark, something far worse than either she or Derek had anticipated. What awaited her now? Would her defiance summon salvation or unleash a nightmare worse than she could imagine? Chilled air swept around her, knotting with the shadows, wrapping them in a malevolent embrace. Ellen's heart thundered in her chest, drowning out all rational thought as the dark whispers grew louder. "Join us," they taunted. "Your pain is an invitation." Her limbs trembled, but she forced herself to stand tall. With each strained breath, the weight of her memories felt like lead, threatening to pull her under. Yet the flicker of hope ignited within her, urging her to act. "Lily needs me," she shouted, her voice gaining strength. "I want to be your pawn." The shadows swirled furiously at her defiance, their wails a chorus of anger that reverberated through the hollow space. Derek's presence grew denser, his eyes narrowed in smoldering rage. "You're a fool to think hope will save you," he hissed, his voice fraying at the edges. Ellen's vision blurred, but she refused to yield. Pushing through the darkness, she felt the outlines of the lost souls waver, flickering like faulty light bulbs barely clinging to life. They pulled away, fear shimmering in their mournful eyes. Could it be that her hope was more powerful than their despair? Just then, a sharp echo pierced through her thoughts like a striking arrow, Lily's laughter, ringing clear and bright. "Mommy!" The sound danced through the darkness, drawing her in, filling her with an unexpected warmth. Instinctively, Ellen reached out, letting that laughter guide her, propelling her forward against the tide of shadows. "Hold on, Lily. I'm coming." As if hearing her, the shadows roared in fury. They began to tug, ripping memories from her grip, flashes of her life with Lily, birthdays, and cozy nights reading stories by the fire, all etched into her heart. Each lost memory left scars imprinted on her soul, an agonizing toll for her determination. Ellen dove deeper into the abyss, her hands stretching out through the cold void. She knew that what she faced was not just a battle for her freedom, but for her daughter's very essence. The thought of Lily lost to this darkness fueled her, pushed her into a furious resolve. "Take this instead," she bellowed, channeling every ounce of love into a single surge that radiated from her core. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as if struck. They thrashed violently, and for a heartbeat, they shimmered before her, revealing glimpses of her daughter. Lily. The sight of her fragile figure blurred through the gnarled branches of a forest of despair, so close, yet so impossibly far. Ellen's heart cracked open under the weight of fear. "Mommy!" The cry shattered the suffocating darkness. The shadows lunged, desperate to reclaim their hold. She stumbled backward, nearly toppling into an emptiness that seemed to stretch infinitely. The ground trembled beneath her feet, threatening to swallow her whole. "How does it feel?" Derek's voice hissed, wrapping around her throat like ice. "To know you're losing everything?" "Not everything," Ellen gasped, breathless yet fierce. "I still have my love for her." The shadows shifted, confused by the raw intensity of her emotion. But just as she felt the tide turn in her favor, she caught a flicker of ice-cold dread. Derek was gathering his power, ready to unleash something more terrible than she had ever faced. "No!" Ellen screamed, her voice echoing against the walls of darkness. "Don't!" But it was too late. From within the shadows, a new figure emerged, a grotesque distortion of what Ellen had once held dear, a figure cloaked in darkness, eyes alight with insatiable hunger. The true nightmare was awakening, one she hadn't imagined, one prepared to shatter what little hope remained. Ellen stood paralyzed, heart racing, knowing the battle was only just beginning. But in the growing darkness, she felt a flicker of resolve. The question reverberated in her mind like an insistent drumbeat: could she face the monstrosity, and would she find a way back to her daughter? The horrors lurking on the edge of the void stirred, and Ellen felt their chill already creeping into her bones. What awaited her now was unfathomable, but it was a choice she had to make. Would she brave the darkness, or would it consume her entirely? Ellen's breath quickened as the grotesque figure stepped forward. Those eyes, dark pits filled with nothing but hunger, warmed with malicious anticipation. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but the memory of Lily held her ground. "Get away from her." Ellen's voice wavered but cut through the darkness with fierce determination. The creature paused, as if tasting her fear. Derek's chilling laughter echoed around her, merging with the wails of the lost souls entwined by shadows. "You think you can command it?" He sneered, dark amusement etching lines on his face. "You've only thinned the veil between nightmare and reality. Welcome to the terror you've awakened." The weight of the air shifted. Shadows slashed at her, but she shoved back, piecing together fragments of courage. Images of Lily filled her mind. Her daughter's smile, her laughter, those memories were potent against this palpable blackness. "Mommy!" The cry pierced through, a beacon of light pushing its way into the void. The figure twisted, arching its back like a predator ready to pounce. No. Ellen thought, clenching her fists until her nails dug into her own skin. "I want to let you take her." This time, instead of fear, she summoned love and desperation, a loud scream that reverberated around her, shaking the walls of despair. "You cannot have us." With every heartbeat, she directed all her emotion to this entity, to the darkness threatening to swallow her whole. But the figure lunged, jagged and swift, ripping through the air like a dart. Ellen fell, the ground shifting beneath her, as if the very earth had turned against her. She tumbled into the chill, landing hard, grappling for purchase on the damp surface below. From her position, she could see Derek watching, his disdain unfurled into a twisted smirk. "Each struggle will cost you dearly, Ellen. You're already too late." Ellen's breath hitched, panic flooding her veins. She couldn't lose Lily. "Help me!" she cried out, feeling every crevice in her soul pulling to the edges. A tremor of desperation coursed through her, igniting a glimmer of rebellion. In the chanting whispers of the shadows, she sensed a turning point, an opening. They were formidable but disorganized, momentarily distracted by her breach of despair. Seizing the moment, she pushed herself to her feet, a fierce determination flashing in her eyes. "Lily!" Ellen shouted, summoning that precious voice from the depths of her heart. The shadows flinched back, recoiling slightly, as if something buried deep within them could be shaken awake. Then came the thunderous roar of the distorted figure lunging again, its shadowy claws aimed right at her throat. In a desperate swing of her arm, Ellen reached out with every ounce of energy left in her. She called upon the very essence of her love for Lily, a love that became her shield. With each word, each thought, she formed an unseen barrier. "You will not take her. She is mine." The ground trembled, shadows bent, and the figure hesitated. Her heart raced as the darkness wavered, revealing flickers of light amidst the inky blackness. The fear tightened its grip, but she held fast. Then, from deeper in the abyss, a brilliant light began to emerge, a salvation rising against the encroaching despair. Was it possible? Could hope manifest as a weapon against the shadows? "What is this?" Derek hissed, his form shifting with discomfort as the light expanded. Ellen clutched at her heart, feeling a power she hadn't realized she could summon. Lily's love is stronger than your darkness. Suddenly, the grotesque figure jolted back, a screech erupting that reverberated through her bones. The shadows quaked, roiling beneath the force of Ellen's defiance. But just then, as hope glimmered at its peak, she felt the sharp pull of something sinister lurking in the figures behind her. Something more ruthless than Derek, more ancient than darkness itself, began to awaken. What new horror had she stumbled upon? Would this light even hold against its impending dread? Ellen braced herself, realizing the next reckoning would come not just for her, but for everything she held dear. Ellen's heart thundered in her chest as the light flickered, gasping against the consuming darkness. Shapes stirred in the shadows, malignant whispers coiling like smoke, slithering around her resolve. Out of the corner of her eye, she could see the original grotesque figure, its form wavering as if it was fighting against an unseen force. Derek's laughter echoed again, louder this time, tinged with a madness that prickled her skin. "You're delaying the inevitable, Ellen. You think a flicker of light can defeat the dark? It's laughable. There are things in this world that thrive on despair, and they're hungry." With each taunt, her determination swelled, but the shadows that gathered around had a different kind of hunger, an ancient thirst to reclaim what was lost. She could feel the weight of them pressing, suffocating her spirit, and the fear in her gut twisted like a coil. "Lily!" She screamed again, her voice slicing through the murky gloom, desperate for a response. "Please, hear me. I need you." A pulse of warmth surged from the growing light, momentarily pushing the shadows back, allowing Ellen to catch her breath. But that warmth was fleeting. It flickered, threatening to extinguish under the weight of the encroaching dark. Then, a low rumble reverberated through the ground. It wasn't just a vibration, it was a voice, one threaded with familiarity and dread. "Mommy!" The whisper was laced with sadness, invoking a painful sweetness that twisted Ellen's heart. "Lily?" But the little girl's voice was distorted, like a record player slowing down. Ellen's breath hitched, a cold grip seized her throat. Shadows twitched and writhed, and she felt the creatures move behind her, the ancient horrors stirring, preparing to break free. She spun around, instinctively raising her arms as if to ward off the darkness. It surrounded her like a living thing, a thousand grasping hands, trying to suffocate her with despair. "Stay away!" she shouted, her voice cracking under the strain. Something clawed at her mind, alive and relentless. It was a chorus of anguish, the voices of those lost to the dark, chanting her name and the names of others, countless people who had encountered this very evil. "Join us," they urged, their voices melding into a cacophony that throbbed inside her skull. "Become one with the eternal night. If I join you, who will save my daughter?" she cried, feeling the moisture of tears on her cheeks, a testament to the unbearable fear that clawed at her heart. The grotesque figure stalked closer, eyes glowing with predatory excitement. Derek's silhouette danced in the shadows, his malevolent gaze locked on her once more. "In losing her, you will find power. Embrace it, Ellen." "No!" she shouted fiercely, grounding herself in the vow to keep her daughter safe. But the shadows were relentless, screeching, climbing up her legs. They threatened to pull her under, to sink her into their silent depths. Suddenly, the brilliant light pulsed again, stronger. Ellen remembered her love for Lily, the pure, unyielding love that had brought her this far. Holding on to that thread of affection, she forged a new cry, louder and sharper than before: "I choose to fight." The shadows recoiled, shrieking in rage, like bats fleeing from the dawn. For an instant, the light expanded, illuminating the dark with brilliant clarity. With every ounce of strength, she directed the light forward, pushing the darkness back like a tide, but a deeper rumble bubbled beneath the surface. Something was awakening within the depths, the true horrors that thrived in this place. Ellen's heart raced as the ground vibrated violently. She flashed a glance back at the grotesque figure, now twisted, its form morphing into something infinitely more horrific. What new terror was manifesting? The shadows were merging, pulling together to create an abomination far worse than Derek had ever been. Ellen took a step back, terror skittering down her spine as she braced for the confrontation that was about to unfold. Would this newfound light be powerful enough, or would it all be for nothing? The sudden darkness behind her moaned and twisted, shapes shifting into something almost recognizable. In that moment, Ellen realized she had yet to face the true evil that lingered beyond the shadows, and it was closer than ever before. Ellen took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage left within her. With her heart pounding, she stepped forward to confront the horrors that were rising from the depths. The shadows began to coalesce, pulling together like a storm cloud filled with darkness. It billowed and expanded, taking shape, becoming a monstrous form that towered over her, wreathed in swirling smoke. "Are you ready to give in?" The monstrous voice hissed, reverberating in the air. Ellen's heart raced, terror lacing through her veins, but she refused to succumb. "You don't own me," she shouted, her voice echoing defiantly against the oppressive darkness. With that declaration, she felt a faint flicker of hope ignite within her. She focused on Lily's face, her laugh, her little hands gripping Ellen's fingers. It was a powerful reminder of everything worth fighting for. As the figure lunged toward her, she instinctively raised her arms, and the light within her swelled, igniting a dazzling glow that pushed back the encroaching darkness. The figure recoiled, shock rippling through its mass, and for the first time, doubt flickered in its grotesque eyes. How dare you?" it snarled, its voice trembling with anger. "I dare because I choose love," Ellen screamed, pouring every ounce of her being into that proclamation. Her light pulsed brighter, rippling through the air like a shockwave, pushing against the dark entity. "I will not let you take my daughter." Derek's belittling laughter cut through the tension. "You think love can save you? This darkness has existed long before you were born, and it will long after your light fades into nothing." He crept closer, weaving through the shadows, his face a mask of eternal malice. He was right, the plight of Cedar Hollow had seeped into the very bones of the earth. Many had fought before her and lost. But the echoes of all those souls were with Ellen now, strengthening her resolve. She felt their presence, a collective force of desperate determination surging through her. As the monstrous figure surged with a ghastly growl, launching itself at her, Ellen tapped into the power that had awakened. "You want to take my daughter?" she cried, voice raw and trembling. "You will have to go through me." The light burst forth like a sun breaking through storm clouds, illuminating the darkness, blasting the shadows apart in a radiant explosion. The shadows screeched, shrieking with unbounded fury, unraveling in the face of her newfound resolve. The monstrous figure began to lose its shape, disintegrating under the onslaught of pure light and love. Derek faltered, backing away, panic flickering in his eyes. "No! You're ruining everything!" he bellowed, the arrogance stripped away, revealing deep-rooted fear. But Ellen didn't waver. "You may have conquered many souls, but you will not conquer mine," she declared, aiming her radiant spirit directly at him. The light surged with a blistering heat, isolating Derek in an ember of realization, a light of hope that he had long thought extinguished. "You're a fool," he hissed, but there was desperation in his voice. "Maybe," she countered, tears streaming down her face. "But I'm a mother willing to sacrifice it all." The brightness enveloped everything, dissolving the last remnants of darkness. She folded her arms around herself, forcing the shadows to retreat. The cacophony of their anger faded into the night, swallowed by the strength of her fearless spirit. Moments later, a profound silence settled over Cedar Hollow. Ellen stood panting, clutching her heart as the remnants of the battle faded. She could feel Lily's warmth radiating beside her, her small hand squeezing Ellen's as the shadows retreated into the fringes of the woods. "Mommy?" Lily's soft voice dripped with concern as her eyes glimmered with life again. "Thank God," Ellen sobbed, wrapping her arms tightly around her daughter. "Oh, baby, I'm so glad you're safe." Yet, in that moment of relief, Ellen realized the price of her victory hadn't come without sacrifice. Some of the memories, the light of days gone by, faded gently but irrevocably into the past. Glancing around, she saw the town waking from its dark dreams. "Can we go home?" Lily asked, her voice still trembling. Ellen nodded, unwilling to break the embrace as they moved slowly toward the edge of the woods. Hand in hand, they left behind the suffocating darkness, every step a silent promise never to let doubt win again. As they reached the warmth of their home, Ellen knew life would never be the same. There would always be shadows lurking, but so long as she held tight to her daughter, their bond, their love, that light could never truly be extinguished. In Cedar Hollow, the whispers of the forest would always be there, a haunting promise hidden in shadow, but she would face it all, tirelessly, for her daughter. With a defeated evil lurking in the darkness, she had conquered one battle. Now for the long road ahead. But as they stepped through the threshold of home, a whisper slid through the air, faint, waiting to be heard: "Don't forget, the shadows never truly vanish." Ellen and Lily locked eyes, a spark of understanding passing between them. They would be vigilant. Because they knew the darkness could return. With that bond solidified, Ellen smiled, her heart swelling with an unyielding spirit, and through it all, she thought of the fleeting love that gave her strength, a love that would forever illuminate even the darkest of nights. If you're still with us and enjoyed the wild ride, listen up, because this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now, and click the bell so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Let's get this video to everyone who craves a good thrill. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions, your thoughts, and your theories about this intense ending. Finally, you must share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Join the community and help us grow. It's all in your hands.